Hello, everybody. Uh, my warm hello to everybody, listeners. This is part two of audience analysis. Now, without digressing, I hope everybody understood what communication is vis a vis audience analysis in association with audience analysis. So, yeah, audience analysis is the process of examining information about your listener. That analysis helps you to adapt your message so that your listeners will respond as you wish. In everyday conversations, you adapt your message to your audience. For example, if you went to a party, or if you go to a party, then you would explain the party differently to your friends and family, right? To your best friend, you might say, "We partied all night and there were tons of people there." To your mother, you might say, "Oh, I had fun with my friends." And to your significant other, you might say, "It was fun. I had a great bonding time with my friends." In each of these situations, you're adapting your message to your listening audience. So, like I said in previous video of the same chapter, audience analysis, X is your X, your communicator. Okay, you are X. So, based on your audience, you change your things, you change your tones, right? Because you say you have been to the same party, right? X is same, the form is same, right? But the substance is changed now. You go to a party, but according to your, you know in psychology there's a terminology that's a defense mechanism, right? You modulate, you adjust, you amend yourself with the situation. Similar here, the relation X is, for example, your communicator, and Y is your listener, right? Uh, Y is your listener. So you are same, you go through same situation, but you have different definitions and different elaborations and different descriptions to different people of the same situation, right? And that is based on target audience, right? For example, you say something to your mom, you say something to your dad, maybe you say something to your friend, you say something to your boyfriend, right? You say something to your girlfriend. It depends upon context. That is communication. That is the beauty of communication. You have a same, the form is same, but the substance are changed sometimes, right? So that is what you do. For example, in bank, right? You have a money. Okay, for example, you have a money, and the basic equation is, right, is so the public, general public, the deposit money in X amount of X percentage of interest. Then bank accelerates that interest rate and makes maybe X plus 1 or X plus 2 percentage, and gives back to the audience, targeted audience, to the same public, right? In different forms. For example, you have sometimes they have they provide loans for the student. The Sometimes they provide they provide loans to officials. Sometimes they provide loans to a a loan like automobile, things like that. And sometimes they offer mortgage and things like that. So it changes. Okay, like a specific purpose is something technical communicator sets his or her mind about where they are to deal with a specific and targeted audience. Okay, audience is the key thing. Okay, and targeted audience is the key thing. For example, a form of communication. Okay, even a newspaper, a brochure, right? Advertisement paper, everything is form of communication. Okay, let's take for example, in Nepal we have eclectic. We have several selections of newspaper, right? Daily newspaper, monthly newspaper, bi-weekly, weekly. Okay, magazines, right? Let us take one example. Saptaik is there, right? That is published in every week, right? That Saptaik has a specific audience a specific purpose and targeted audience, right? Some group of people, like they see that they see that newspaper, they read that newspaper. Now when you think carefully, okay, how do you know about them? How do you know goes what kind of audience goes through that newspaper? Is maybe there is thing, right, that is called demography, maybe by age, maybe by class system, maybe by education, right? If they have been to maybe private and boarding school, maybe they read less. If they have been to government school, maybe they read more. I'm not becoming skeptic about things, but it is there, right? There, and if we do some sort of survey, then we can come out of some result, some quantifiable result, right? Some arguable result, that okay, these are the groups of people that they study, that they read this Saptahic newspaper, and the publishing house knows about that. Okay, okay. For example, NY Times, right? Republica first maybe surveyed several people, like what kind of people study what kind of newspapers, and maybe they thought, okay, it is better. Now they have NY Times also. NY Times, New York Times comes with Republica. There are some targeted audience. There are some targeted audience for Nagarik, right? There are some targeted audience for Kathmandu Post. There are some targeted audience for Kantipur, Delhi, right? So there are always targeted audience, and as a communicator, you have to know. At least knowing works. You have to know that everything you do, you have some targeted audience. Now, as a communicator, every day you do something. It's like acting. It's like your performance. It's like your competence. You're giving that competency. You're providing that competency to the group, among the group, in a group. Okay, and every time you are performing something, right? Have a purpose. You have audience. These are the things we should never forget. The audience centered approach is more than an approach to business communication. It is actually the modern approach to business in general. Behind such concepts as total quality management and total customer satisfaction, yes. Yes, customer satisfaction, the biggest thing, the mostly widely popular, widely used terminology, yet it has a deep meaning. It has a semantic value to it. It's not that somebody comes to you and you greet them. It's not customer satisfaction. It has to go beyond that. It has to be able to offer a transcendental effect. That being said, that means you have to play psychologically. You have to fulfill your customer. You have to provide them home environment. You have to provide them assurance. You have to provide them trust. So much we can talk on this. Okay, because you care about your audience, you take every step possible to get your message across in a way that is meaningful to your audience. Yes. Now the key word here is meaningful, right? Meaningful, purpose, customer satisfaction, communication, audience. These are some keywords that should not be missed while explaining, while talking, while thinking, communication. Okay, now let's see. You might try adhering strictly to the guidelines about courtesy. Yes. Now this, don't be confused with what is written in the slide here. It just says that you have to know what courtesy is. What humbleness is, what offering help is, what communication. Those are the pillars of communication, right? Full-fledged communication. So that is all. Until now, let us take a very easy path. Until now, we just know there is a communication. Communication can be verbal or non-verbal or written form, anything, right? And there is a purpose for every communication. There is something called, on the process, there is something called customer satisfaction. and you have a targeted audience and things like that. Okay. Now, according to the book written by Farindra Upadhyay, right, and Dharma Adhikari, I guess, yeah, and Dharma Adhikari. Audience analysis is this involves three stages as per writer. Okay, development stage, reading or test stage, action stage. Okay, now see what do you think is development stage? It's a first stage. A development stage is a communicator, technical expert, supervisor, etc. Work together on concept, design, and content. Right? They develop things. Obviously, for example, they plan to publish the newspaper the next day. That is a development stage. Reading or test stage is when they upload things in the computer and everything. They test, they correct, and things like that. Right? That is. And action stage is they release the newspaper 12 p.m. Right? Midnight. That is a action stage. So definitely, development stage is crucial. The more crucial and risky is test stage, and the more crucial and risky and the more risky is action stage, right? So the level of attention is in increasing order in these three stages. So you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to memorize everything. It just there are many writers, right? You know, and everybody wants fame and things like that, and so they just and for our easiness, so they are communicator, we are reader, okay? So they want to provide a service, a easy service, you know. The usability of this writer is very high. I mean, you know, and he wants us to understand things, and they are just categorizing things into three stages, which is okay. You can come up with your own stages, whatever is good for you, and that is also a smart communicator, you know. That is smart thinking. You can come with any other stage. According to them, they said development stage is the first stage where you plan, where you develop things, where you talk, right, over coffee and tea and whatever. And reading or test stage, the other is test stage. You put measuring rod to that. Maybe you test, you know, X being your entity that is giving service, and Y being the receiver getting service, audience, right? You try to put you try to develop a equation between X and Y. That is a test stage, right? And stages cannot be always test. Thesis cannot be always hypothesis, right? It is a process, and you know, as the time measures, maybe there is a action stage. You implement that. That is action. You implement. It is simple. So any okay, you have to understand now the whole picture of anything. For example, if you see any clothes, if you see any magazines, if you see any newspaper, if you see any product, for example, anything, computer, IBM, right, iPhone, anything, you can partition those into three stages, right? First, maybe they discussed to come up with something that is development stage. Second, maybe they tested. There are many tests like alpha test, beta test, gamma test, mom test, and whatnot. And you can come up with some other test, maybe grandchildren test or anything. You just have to define. That's all. You just have to give a little, you know, definition to it. What you want to say. That's all. If you can defend things, you can be read. If you have that little power to these are the things there, but apart, yes, you can break that into three stages. Simple. The first is development, second is test, and the other is action. Okay. So the writer also, audience, this is a prolific understanding of the terminology audience. Okay, according to them, they say A is, so within, like AUDIENCE, yes, within A and E, they want to create a zone where you can understand the qualities of audience. And I don't know, it is by default, it is by lock, whatever. We've got beautiful understanding. If you just understand this thing, you understand everything. Okay, so the A is audience. U is understanding. Definitely, there has to be some element of understanding, right? Comprehension. You have to understand the process. You have to, that is usability also, understandability also. Means you have to say in a way that your customer understands you, and vice versa. Okay, for example, and you have to be aware of their ethnicity, their knowledge system, their mind pattern, and things like that. That is, you have to understand, right? Only then you can, as a communicator, you can bargain the negotiations, you can crack the deal, right? You can nail it down. That is the thing. Okay, for example, if you are a bank manager, a loan manager, you have to understand every competitor, they work for same audience, mostly. So you have to excel it. That is very important. These demographics, don't be worried about demographics. This is a little big terminology, but it just says like age of people, right? Like from for example, if you open a hookah bar, so your targeted audience may be like the people aging from the people aged between 20 to maybe 32, and you'll see that, yes. Or maybe, if you have a salon, then your targeted audience are the people aged from this and this, right? Or maybe they belong to the social strata. You can tell this social strata, right? Or maybe you can say this, this group of people come here. Or maybe you can say this, like the person who ever makes this money works here. Okay, if you are to open a java house, if you are to open a organic coffee house, a brewer, a coffee brewing house, then you look for the targeted audience. Maybe somebody who makes 50,000 a month can drink one coffee a day, right? You cannot go to any place who makes very low, who has very low income, right? And I'm just being clear. I'm not subjugating any class here. Okay, you have to understand in that way. But if somebody is making 10,000 a month, he or she cannot afford your bakery things and cannot afford your coffee. Once in a while, it might be the case, but if it is once in a while, you cannot run business that way. So demographic is very important. I is interest. Interest is there, right? You have to have interest. You have to have interest. Okay, here is a dual meaning now. Okay, in communication we have a dual meaning also. Okay, one word, for example, the word set has a almost 65 70 meanings in a dictionary. So interest is, first you have to have interest. Your interest has to be ignited and incited. Okay, and your interest has to be imparted, and that, for that, people have to be interested. Okay, you have to be interested to implement your interest. That is the thing, right? And so environment, yes, definitely environment is not only eco environment. Okay, environment is, you have to have ambience, you have to have a perseverance, you have to have a dedication, you have to have a determination, you have to have a goal, you have to have everything. That is all environment. You have to have a positive and a good vibe. The situation should be a win-win situation, things like that. Needs, yes, definitely. Some, you have to be in need to deliver your promises, and your client or your reader has to be in need to take your promises. So need plays a prominent, a very role here. Now, don't just fall under the impression that these are all the things. Don't be limited in this understanding of AUDIENC. You can tell some other thing. You can just tell, okay, I think the writer thinks A is audience, but I think A is anticipation. You can say that. You just elaborate that in 2 lines. And as a student, and even in your thinking pattern, you have to think in that manner, right? You is understanding, but you can write you is, according to him, you is understanding, yes. But I also think it can be replaced by usability, because it is only used, it is user friendly when it is understanding. Okay, You can write determination in demographics or things like that. So you can come up with your own things. Okay, you are ambassador of this course and everything. Now, book discusses about three prolific writers and profound thinkers. Okay, so they're just out of like thousands and millions of writers. They talk about three writers. So why are they talking about these writers? That is a different story, right? Many Asian writers are not being able to be published. There is a little politics there. There are things there, but now we are to see that. We have to understand. We have to open up now. In a way, there are so many writers, and these three writers have wrote something, and the writers of this book thought worth it to mention these writers, so like XYZ, So they are there. Just let's take a look what they write. That's all. So one is Anderson, okay, Paul V. Anderson. He says in technical communication, he writes about a reader-centered approach. That is in 2007. The moment you have 2007, you now start brainstorming your mind. It has to be automated process. 2007, Facebook was there, right? YouTube was there. Insta was there, I guess, right? So uh, so that has impact, right? Reader-centered approach. Try to connect the dots. Before 2005, there was no Facebook. No, before 2004, there was no YouTube. So there was a huge impact in terms of cosmopolitan thinking, in terms of globalization, right? In terms of writer and reader relation. So he's writing about a reader-centered approach, which means it is all about facility. So it is about catering the needs, tailoring the needs of the reader. And then he says that approach has to be you have to make people understand things. You have to make your clients understand things. You have to work from that perspective. You have to shine that point. That is what he thinks. Somebody might think, a communicator centered approach, right? Somebody might think, okay, if you are communicating, you have to be polished, you have to be taken care of, you have to be, you have to be groomed, and then only you can offer some help. So there are things. Burnett also says something on technical communication. Lennon also says something on technical writing. Lennon says something on technical writing. Okay, Anderson audience analysis is, let's see what he says. Like, you can add your own point here, but what do you think on this? That is the gist of this explanation. Identify the specific task your reader will perform by using your communication. Okay, let's take a thread of bank example. Specific task your reader will perform by using your communication. Okay, for example, so once again, don't be confused with reader. A reader is a client, a reader is a consumer, a reader is an audience. Okay, their value changes. So now see here. For example, X is a loan manager. I'm a loan manager. I'm offering service. So I have to identify the task my consumer, my client will perform by using my communication, right? Identify the reader's attitude that are relevant to the communication. So I, being a loan manager, I have to identify his attitude in association with my communication. So I have to help my client quickly find the information, right? So use easy to read writing style. Yes, easy to. Everything has to be understandable. Highlight the points that readers find to be persuasive. Yes, there is a little place where you can play. That is a motivation. That is a persuasion. You have to be able to persuade things. Yeah, talk with your readers, and you memorize. So these are the things here. Just for in your exam, if you are studying BBA and BBA, yes. If you have in your exam, make little a trick. For example, I have formulated a little small formula. The THESAI, the SI. So T is talk, highlight, easy to read, specific task, attitude, information findings. That is his audience analysis. So let's see Burnett's audience analysis. Burnett says identify intended audience. he talks about four different types of possible audience. Okay, initial, primary, secondary, external. Once again, like three stages. You have initial, you have primary, you have secondary, you have external. Okay, so now once again categorize, break that a process, break that into four, right? Initial, primary, secondary, and external. So that's what he says. So initial is like someone who contracts the technical communicator for the job, reads the document. Okay, if you let's once again take for example a publication house, right? For example, Kathmandu Post, right? If you sign a contract, if you read the document, there is an initial process, right? So primary is the intended audience, uses the document, right? If you use the document, then your intended audience. For example, if I'm a reader, if that newspaper comes to my house, then I read that, right? I'm an audience, so I'm primary thing. I'm a primary. Secondary is like subject experts, like supervisors and managers. Yes, and external is someone not belonging to the organization but is affected by the information of the document. Yes, that is external. Before there was no concept of external, right? There was just targeted audience. Now here is also Burnett also brings the thing that is external. Uh, okay. Now let's see what Lennon says about this thing. Lennon's audience analysis is audience is a prime importance in technical writing. So now Lennon is shifting. It's not any comparison. And in the West, people they don't care about competition. Just because Anders said something, they don't put themselves on on the circumstance where they don't write anything. No, that doesn't happen. They come up with something. So the thread is same communication. And now Lennon says, okay, let's talk about writing. Writing is very important in today's and this is right. So now he talks about highly technical document, semi-technical document, and non-technical document, right? That is his main proposition. Now he says highly technical document. For example, if pilot is, reading some document about his procedures, about his piloting chores, we don't understand that, right? If we find any information that is related to piloting or engineering, like a normal person, they don't understand that is highly technical. Semi-technical is maybe you understand some of the things. For example, maybe some bank documents, you understand some of the thing, yet there might be something that has to be drilled, that has to be pondered on upon. And normal non-technical is, for example, a novel, for example, a piece of information. That is what he's saying. Okay, now when you explain, try to put all this thing into the same pot and explain it. So those are the things. Consider reader's cultural background and environment. Yes, that is true. In Japan, you bow down, right? And you are same, right? So you have to change your rule. Now see here, in Japan, you bow down. You are taken as a dedicated person, very honest person. Trust me, yes, because collectivism is there, right? The culture is a collective culture. They believe in there, right? And the avoidance of the uncertainty avoidance is very high there as compared to they have the beliefs and systems and cultures and things like that, right? You have to have so much preconceived things about so many things. In United States, you bow down, they are like, what is this? You just shake hand to your boss, right? In Japan, it's a different scenario. In United States, it's a different scenario. In UK, there's a different scenario. In UK, I don't think you can share some food over a same plate with your boss. But in the United States, you can do that. So cultural background is super important, very important. It's on the apex. It is like a epitome. Okay. And the reader's knowledge of the subject. Yes, for example, if you are to say something to your reader on maybe alpha, beta, gamma, and infinite thing. For example, if you want to say him, if you want to say him something about maybe the knowledge, something about 1 to 10, you have to know how much he knows, right? That is, he or she knows. I'm not being patriarchal, but yeah, automatically that comes he. So whenever I say he, understand he, she, every humanity, every group of people. Okay, so there is a thing you have to understand there. Now say this rate is something you have to think smart, because your examiner, whoever gives you question, mostly 80%, they are they think, and that is my experience, that they think that you have to write whatever is in the book. All right, all the questions and everything. That is what they think. That is what they teach, and they don't impart like some teachers impart us inspiration, like to think, to make thinking a liquidity process, right? To have some transcendental effect, to think from minus to plus, to think in an infinite zone. They don't do that. They just bring a information, piece of information, and they want us to just memorize that piece of information. By just memorizing that piece of information, if we could bring good marks, thumbs up, right? Otherwise, no. But I want you to understand that there might be something like a John, something like a Mary, something like a Christian. They might be talking something about audience analysis. You can bring it on the table, right? So okay, so testing an intended audience, we'll talk about this in the next chapter. Okay, and okay, I would like to drill on two words, that is usability. Okay, usability is and persuasiveness, audience centered measures. These are the tools. Okay, don't be confused on anything. Usability is simple. It has to be user friendly. People should be able to use it, right? That is usability. And persuasiveness is, it has to be informative, yes, yet persuasiveness. It has to be motivating. Until and unless it is not motivating, it is not moving, it is not inspiring, how do you how do you how do you prove yourself to offer a excellent service? Okay, that is the thing. Now, okay, so once you take a look at all those things, Burnett's principles of usability is learnability, yes, efficiency, yes, memorability. You should be able to memorize things. People should be able to memorize your service, and error recovery, yes, it has to be free from errors and all these things. Satisfaction, yeah, it is there. It's just like, they're saying some things and you're saying, yeah, 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 I get it. You're using little, communication thing, and you're writing your things. Yeah, I get it. That is what you should have. That is the sort of impact that you should have from these slides and from the book. Okay, take a look at this, and you just understand what they are saying, and in exam you just write what you understood these people saying it to you. But nevertheless, you have to have a little package understanding and audience understanding, and understanding, anticipation, and acknowledgement and things like that. On audience, you have to pay your homage on these things: audience, targeted audience, communicator, a piece of information, convincing thing, right? Admiring. These are the things. Customer satisfaction. These are the things. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.